The basis of my addiction was because I was a fat little girl. When I was about 4 or 5 years old, my mom took me to the pediatrician, and the doctor said a lot about me and my body image right in front of me. And I took that as my identity. People would say, your face is beautiful, but I would take it as, oh, but your body's fat, right? There's a perception and reality that I've really had to try to learn about me. And people will say things, but then my brain takes it to a level that they might not have meant. I'm currently in therapy working on that right now.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be? Brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous. Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. As we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Marianne Williamson.
Welcome to Powerful Beyond Measure, a podcast about radical transformation, gritty stories, and the undeniable power of second chances. I'm your host, Matt Culp, a man in long-term recovery who believes in the power of grace, grit, and growth. Each week, we sit down with real people who've overcome real struggles, from addiction to adversity. No fluff, no filters, just truth, healing, and hope. And the truth is, you are powerful beyond measure, and it's time you knew it. Today's guest is Jolie. It's nice you're here.
Thank you.
Glad you're here. Just kind of introduce yourself, and then we'll kind of start talking from there.
Okay. So my name is Jolie. I am also a person that's in long-term recovery. I'm from this little town of Murfreesboro. I grew up here, went to school here, graduated from Oakland High School in 1997. So next year will be my big 30-year high school reunion.
So did my ex.
Yeah.
Oakland. She's 44.
She's a little younger than me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody here knows everybody.
Which is beautiful and kind of cringy all at the same time.
What, like, social, in high school, like, what social group were you in?
So I was always, and still, like, my friends are always very important to me. I still have relationships with the friends that I had in high school. So I would say, like, during that time, there was maybe 2,000 students in the whole school, right? And but also during that time, there was only Oakland, Riverdale, pretty much. There wasn't all of these high schools that we have now. So I was, I would say, I was kind of like one of the cool ones. I mean, I was involved with the sorority type friends that I wasn't in during high school. Now, my college years, I was. But yeah, I was always kind of the youngest one in the class. I graduated when I was 17.
Me too.
So, I had an older brother and a younger brother, but I liked to, my older brother graduated high school the year before I entered. He graduated in 93. But he was always the one, that, like I looked up to. And, if it was going to be a field party night, like that would be like my access to assist me in getting what I needed for that,
Okay.
But yeah, I don't want to say like popular because, I don't like that label. But I've always been, a really good friend. And I think that can be even kind of said today because I do continually, like I have the same friend. I have friends that I've had since kindergarten. Not kindergarten because we moved here when I was in second grade. So second, third grade, high school, like I grab one or two really close friends, and they've been, there for me for a lifetime. But I am kind of like a person that has a hard time trusting people. So it takes me a minute to really, like find that. But at the same time, like people kind of gravitate towards me also because I believe like friendships are also divinely placed in your life.
Me too.
Because I've, like my best friend that has been my best friend since high school. Like, there was a period of time that we were separated in our friendship, and that was really just kind of life. She had a baby right after we started college and ended up, like having to go off to a different state. And I continued my sorority party life. So we had about almost 20 years where we kind of had a little bit of life together, but didn't really talk a whole lot because you have to remember also we're in that generation where cell phones were not very prevalent until, after high school.
Call me on my home phone.
Yeah. I'm talking about like raising children now and doing the school stuff. It's easy. Let me chat GPT and it'll give me the answer. Whereas, when we were in school, when I was in college, I'd have to go to the library to research all this stuff.
Y'all had computers in-house, right?
Oh, yeah, we did. But we had that dial-up AOL,
Yeah, I was on there.
And that's where I could say, like, my best friend from high school. So when we graduated high school, I was still 17. But we got an apartment, like, right out of high school.
Together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so, I mean, we partied all the time.
What college did you go to?
MTSU.
Okay.
Yeah, so I moved into right off of Greenland, right there. I forget the name of it. That's still there, right behind the campus pub, and Gentleman Jim's. But yeah, so yeah, friends.
What about childhood?
Childhood.
Well, yeah, like
so
family life.
Okay, like so I was born in Ohio. So my dad works for the VA. He's retired from the VA. He was in the Navy. He's a veteran. And so the VA was where he started working when he came back from active military. And my parents are from a small town, Savannah, Tennessee, which is west.
Yeah, I know where it's at.
So my dad, my grandparents were in Crump, which was River Heights down on the river. My mom was on the other side of the river in Savannah. So in the summer, when I was born in Ohio, we only lived there for about 3 weeks of my life. And then the VA took my dad to Augusta, Georgia, which was where I was until like the first grade. And then the VA brought him here to Murfreesboro. Okay. But in the summer, because we didn't live close to my grandparents, I would go stay there, with them. Like my one grandparents were on the river, and I have a lot of first cousins. My grandmother had 26 grandchildren. So going there, and my mom was an only child. So going there, I was able to really like live on the land, right? My grandfather would allow us to drive when we were like 8, 9 years old. And like, like your son runs the neighborhood on his motorcycle. That's what we did. We would get on motorcycles and ride down to the river. He always had a boat, a jet ski of some sort. They had a swimming pool. But really, like, I'll talk about, like my struggle because I have said I'm a person that's in long-term recovery, but the basis of my addiction was because I was a fat little girl, right? When I was about 4 or 5 years old, my mom took me to the pediatrician, and the doctor really, said a lot about me and my body image right in front of me, and I took that as my identity. And so when I would go stay summers with my grandparents and stuff, I mean, they let me eat whatever I wanted. Like my grandfather, this sounds nasty, but like mayonnaise and jelly sandwiches, or they lived on the river, so they fried fish. Everything was fried. And so from the age of about 6, starting at about the age of 6, like I was always active. I was never a lazy child, but because of genetics, like you can kind of look at my family and see like we're bigger people. But I continued to grow very big. And so I always would hear like, you're beautiful, like you're fat, like, but people would say, like your face is beautiful, but I would take it as, oh, but your body's fat. Right. Like, and so like there's a perception and reality that I've really had to try to learn about me, and like really people will say things, but then my brain takes it to a level that they might not have meant. And I'm currently in therapy working on that right now. But my childhood for the most part was great. Like
when I was a kid, I was a big kid.
Yeah, you were.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I don't think, I do have, usually people with like body dysmorphia, even bodybuilders, like if they were a big kid, they always will think they're big. Mm-hmm. If you're skinny, like you wear like big shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you want to be a big guy.
Okay.
Or like you always think you could be like someone that's a skinny guy could be a 280-pound bodybuilder, but he thinks he's skinny. But it didn't really do that as much with me. There is a little bit, but I think it had a better effect, which is it allowed me to learn. The silver lining is it allowed me to learn to have a personality. Mm-hmm. And like in general, like with girls, it allowed me to have like game. Because we have that great personality, don't we? Yeah. So like,
I am a funny person. Yeah. I do make jokes. I was voted wittiest, right? That's the typical fat girl. Like,
yes,
and that's exactly what it did. And going back to friends, like, but my friends were beautiful in my eyes. And walking into a room, I would never think anybody's looking at me, but they're looking at my friend, so they're looking at me. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But when I think
you should have just got uglier friends.
Lord, then I wouldn't attract what I wanted to attract if I had ugly friends.
Yes, that's true.
But I'm also the kind of person that can make friends with anybody.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna I'll tell you, one of my best friends from college, and her name was Jenny Jackson. Okay.
It's a great
beautiful name. Barbie girl look, right? And I tell her this, so this is not anything that she hasn't heard before, but like going into college and you do like the sorority thing. And I'm not like, I've always kind of been a tomboy too. Like I am good friend, like my best friends in high school were guys. But I never like dated, right? It was always like one of the guys that always like, hey, hook me up with your friend. Like that's kind of where I was at. But my friend Jenny Jackson from Jackson, Tennessee. And I'm like, oh God, I hate this girl. And she became my best friend, and she's still my best friend. One of them. We don't see each other often, but she's getting married in August. So I'm excited about that. And like she, after college, we had the same degree of child development, family studies, but she went off to New York City and she lived there for 11 years, which is totally her. And she ended up coming back to Nashville. She lives in Nashville now, but she sold like Bentley. She's modeled. She's been on some reality TV, but the absolute most beautiful human being, like in terms of grounded salt of the earth, down the earth. But we were raised very much the same way. Like you go back to my childhood, like my parents were excellent parents. Like in a lot of the rooms I sit in, most people that are in long-term recovery have a very traumatic childhood, traumatic experiences. And the trauma that I was, ever had in my life was all self-inflicted. Not all of it, because I put myself in situations that caused me to be taken advantage of and harmed in a lot of ways. But at the same time, just being blacked out drunk, all the time during college. And so I started drinking when I was about 14, like with friends in school.
So I'm like of the thought that, every treatment center I've ever been in, they think cause and effect, right? Mm-hmm. You were traumatized, so you use something to quiet yourself, But honestly, I'm not going to say I haven't experienced adverse childhood experiences or trauma but throughout my entire, like, going through treatment and then, like, looking back and, like, I like the way drugs and alcohol feel. Like, right. Yeah, who doesn't? Exactly. I just like them a lot.
Well, and a lot of the trainings that I provide is like we're escaping something, right?
Yes.
I liked alcohol because it helped me to feel good about myself.
Well, I also never, like, I think I was sitting with Chris maybe. It was a guest recently, but I never had, like, and maybe because I was so young when I started using and not drinking, but I never felt uncomfortable. And then, I drank and all this was lifted off of me. Like, I felt okay.
Well, I mean, and again, like, now that we're grown people looking back, trying to piece together the chaos, right?
Yeah.
Like, really, I was just being a kid doing all the things that my friends were doing.
Correct, yeah.
Mine just went to another level.
Yeah. I can think about, like, one time in my recovery, I was trying to think, how did I feel when I smoked weed? Like, what was it like, Mm-hmm. And I remember, like, really trying to dig deep. Like, I felt uncomfortable when I smoked weed. I felt like I had multiple inner dialogues going on while I'm speaking to you.
Was that something you liked to do, smoking weed? Because it was not something that I liked to do.
I continued for years.
Okay, I got you.
But I was trying to think the first time, how did I feel?
Mm-hmm.
But how I felt was, I'm talking to you, but I'm also talking to myself. Does she hear me? Did I say that?
Paranoid.
Can she smell? Like, yeah, like, I'm not even all paranoid. I have like two voices going on while I'm talking to you. I'm at school, like, whatever. Like, it seemed, looking back, that I was in an uncomfortable, anxious state, but then I continued use until it went away. And then, when you smoke every day, that doesn't happen.
Right.
But the first time was uncomfortable. So it wasn't that I was uncomfortable and I needed the drugs and alcohol, which alcohol is a different experience. But it was more that I was trying to be cool and I just pushed through until that didn't happen anymore. Yeah. Like cocaine was like, I'll never do. Even if I went back to drugs, I'd probably never do cocaine.
You wouldn't.
No, it's not. I don't understand.
I kind of liked it.
I mean, there was times that I liked it, and there was times it was wonderful and great. But I would say 95% of the time, it was not a great experience. It was like, I'm doing something that I just need more of, but I really didn't get incredibly high, and I'm just like chasing that. It felt really dirty. Like, I'm hanging out with you in a bathroom because you have the cocaine, but we're not. I don't really like you. But I'm like waiting till we can do more cocaine, and then
it's just this constant chasing of something that you don't ever really get. Well, because cocaine for me now, I did never do a whole lot of hard drugs, but I did. I drank so much.
Cocaine comes with
drinking.
Yeah.
But however, it's a wonder I didn't drink myself to death, because when you're doing cocaine and doing alcohol, You don't get drunk and you don't get high.
Yeah, I know.
You're just like
normal
doing all of these things. And then you're just like, and you don't ever go to sleep. So it's not like you wake up and you're like, ugh. It's like you're just existing, right?
I mean, there are drugs that I've done that I liked, but looking back at some of them, I was like, I didn't really like those. I just did those based on peer pressure and wanting to be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are like some. I got really engaged later, well, probably really early in life, but later in my addiction. Like I started drugs really early, but I got engaged with the idea and thought that I may or may not die. And that was the high versus I feel great. Like it was more, I want to use as much as possible and I want to encounter close to death.
Oh.
So I lived in that space.
So your addiction, like when you talk about your addiction,
Yeah.
what were you addicted to?
Like meth.
Meth.
Meth and heroin.
Gotcha.
Yeah, alcohol. But like there was always alcohol around. But the last 5 years was meth intravenously.
Okay.
And I would do as much meth as possible. I was never a type of person that like kept meth on me. Like, oh, I'm going to do a little more
You used
later.
it until it was gone.
I used immediately as much as I could possibly afford, as much as I possibly could put in there, and to the place where I could almost face death. And then I wouldn't touch it for 5 days. Like I was so high that I wouldn't smoke cigarettes. I was so,
Yeah.
yeah. And
so I'm sure you know, what's the percentage of people coming off of,
I think it's like 1 or 2%.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah.
and I never did meth, so I can't say.
Good job.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those like dirty drugs, right?
I know. It's not when you do it, it's not what you think it's not what I thought it was growing up. Yeah, it's more, like when I think of dirty versus clean, you're thinking like social status.
Right.
Yeah, but cocaine was dirty because it made me feel anxious about getting more. And I'm like I'm in a room with people I don't like, and I'm like craving.
Yeah.
Meth was like you do it once, and then you don't even think about the drug for 5 days. So it was cleaner in that sense. And I mean, I don't know how, but I have all my teeth, and I look.
That's
great. I don't look like.
You don't look like what you've been through.
Yes, correct.
I say that a lot.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't either.
You don't. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was in trap houses cooking methamphetamine.
Wow.
And I looked like this, People thought I was the police a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I dressed nicer than most people in those places. I still had my
Your
teeth.
appearance always mattered to you in a way. Like
Yes.
you weren't just going to walk around looking some sort of way all the time.
Yes, correct.
And that's how I've always been too. So I could hide addiction very well.
I didn't hide it. I was very open about what I was doing at all times with my family.
Well, I thought I could hide it, right? But mine was alcohol.
It's hard to hide alcohol.
You can't hide alcohol.
You can.
I mean, to like what addiction is progressive, right?
Yes.
You can think, okay, but eventually it's going to lead onto a destructive path.
Yes.
Because I would have, periods of being sober. And then, like if I started to drink again, it's not like it was total destruction right that day.
The worst thing that can happen for a drug addict or alcoholic, like say they're living sober living, or they're, the worst thing that can happen is they go out and drink one time and nothing bad happens. Like then they think, oh,
I'm good now.
I could wait 2 weeks and do this again.
Yeah.
And then, I don't really have that, whatever that is, I don't have that level. Like I understand that about myself. Like I'm all in or all nothing on everything in my life. So
yeah.
If I were to use drugs and alcohol today, like I don't think I could go drink at a bar and then go home.
Well, I'm more.
I'm gonna go take every last dollar out of my bank account.
Yeah. Well, and I'm more like now more into my faith, where I want to be pleasing to God.
And is that pleasing to God?
And He's shown me over and over again, Jolie, you cannot drink alcohol. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, I'll try it. How'd that work out for you?
Yeah.
And like I could probably, again, I don't know. I don't even want to try what I could and couldn't do anymore, because He's shown me enough over time that you can't drink alcohol. You have every time you do, it's just a path of destruction. And then, now with all of the chaos that comes with being a single mom and raising kids, like I have to be in my right mind at all times, because, like with kids, it's very unpredictable. So, even if I had it set up to where, oh, well, my kids are going to be with my parents tonight and I'm going to be home, so let me lay loose. And, no, I can't even consider that either, like, because I know also what alcohol could potentially do. So I don't even want to try.
There's a weird, like, I've been around people that have started to drink again, right?
Mm-hmm.
For a multitude of reasons or whatever. I'm also the only person in my recovery group when I got sober that stayed sober.
And never touched it again?
Yes.
Okay.
So watching them and watching other people, there is like this space that like we want to have like actions without shame in our life and like be okay with ourselves, and like people that use or drink, the shame will eat them up.
Mm-hmm.
But like there is a space in which you should be healthy enough that if you did any action in your life, you shouldn't have shame over it. So like there is like somebody that did drink in long-term recovery and they're okay with it is going to be more healthy,
right,
than someone else. I think the shame would eat me up.
Shame is
because I feel like I'm failing God.
Exactly.
It's gift.
Yes.
Yeah, but not everybody chose recovery based on God.
Mm-hmm.
They chose it out of ethics or consequences or whatever. But to me, like, I was saved by God, and it's a gift. So it would be very shameful of me to walk away from that thing. But I do feel that some people aren't alcoholics. They just quit drinking.
Right.
Some people are in recovery meetings that aren't
in recovery.
Yeah.
I agree.
Or they're not chronic alcoholics. They're just situational, or they had consequences. So I think that's like one of the most dangerous things in recovery rooms. Like people that aren't true. Like, I think it's beneficial for their life, but it's really unhealthy for the real alcoholic.
And I think the longer that we're in the rooms, which, I mean, like, you're a big AA guy, right?
Don't tell everybody.
Okay, I won't tell everybody. But,
Everybody knows.
I had to do, because I had 3 DUIs, and I went through the DUI Court Program.
In Rutherford
County in 2011. So I was required to do these meetings. That's really how I came to learn about Celebrate Recovery. But
because you had to go to different
but I had to
meetings.
do, like, you have your programming, which is like 5 days a week, but then you have to do 5 meetings on top of all of that. And so, I would kind of rotate
different places,
depending on my schedule, because I never lost my job throughout all of this either. And so I think just kind of us knowing, even at our age, right? We're right about the same age. And what we've learned about ourselves and other people, like there are a lot of different paths and roads to recovery.
Yes.
Just as individual as you and I are, other people are as well. And you know, like I said, there might have been a belief that I had maybe 10 years ago, that I have grown to learn more about, where my belief system might have changed in terms of, you know, people being on a medically,
I was gonna bring that up.
yeah. Because like I believe that anybody's path to recovery, like we want to just keep people alive long enough for them to be able to recover.
Yeah.
Now long term, you know, is something like that necessary? And I can say probably yes and no, because I've seen both sides. I've seen
People become dependent.
people become dependent on, and if you're actually like dependent on a substance, are you in recovery? You know, but at the same time, if this substance is
if you're looking at it as a medical situation, then yes.
right,
If you're looking at it as a spiritual problem, then probably no. Because medically, if you're on insulin, are you in recovery for diabetes? Yes. But if you're looking at it like a spiritual disease versus,
which is where I get a lot of questions asked of me.
how so?
Because you know, being a faith-based coordinator, I'm in a lot, and so as a faith-based coordinator, my job is I'm the conduit between the faith community and resources in the community. So I train churches and congregations about mental health and substance use based on my own personal experience, right? We're given this evidence-based studies, you know, the addictive brain development. Like your brain isn't developed until you're 26, 27 years old. So if you start using a substance, right? I know. Well, when did you start using the substance? So your brain didn't even really start developing until you were 26, 27, right?
Yeah.
But you know, like a lot of the questions that I get asked are, you know, medical versus spiritual. And, you know, like I can only, I don't want to say I can give, you know, case evidence of my own life about, you know, like I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but I was also a blackout drunk. And, you know, so what in my brain was functioning on any kind of normal level with not much. And then considering, you know,
where does the faith-based, this is like curiosity for me.
Yeah.
Is like, where does the faith-based, where do the churches, that's who you're speaking to mostly, right?
Well, so the faith-based initiative, mostly churches and congregations, but it can be any community of faith, right? So it can be
sober living,
yoga,
year-long program.
Yeah, I mean there is, you know, it's not Jesus Christ faith. That's
also,
my faith.
Also like therapeutic.
Okay. Yes.
Where do they sit with? Well, one, where do they sit with mental health medication?
All over the place.
Okay, that's a good answer. And then where do they sit with medically assisted treatment?
Really, so I'll say that's evolved. Depending on, because I do certify communities of faith, such as Teen Challenge, right?
Okay.
And Teen Challenge specifically, I would say even within the last 5-10 years, we're totally against the mental health aspect.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're kind of old school,
right?
Yeah.
Which I guess I could say I was old school also.
Me too.
You know. But you have to know that you don't always know everything all the time, and you have to have a period of learning in your life that, you know, things can change over time, and medicine is always being studied, addiction, disease in general. And if you believe that addiction is a disease, yeah, I believe that. But I also believe it's spiritual. Right?
Yes.
Like it's all encompassing. which is why, like, when the question is asked of me about, like, was this a spiritual experience or was this the chemicals in your brain? And it's like, both.
Yeah.
I just have to rely on, like, my own personal relationship with God too, because for a long time I didn't think God spoke to me, like, in the ways that people will say, like, oh, God spoke to me and he told me this, and I'm like, did he? Because he doesn't talk to me like that. But really he does. You just kind of have to know when it's him. But where does the faith community lie? So with, like, depending on, like, I cover 20 counties of southern Middle Tennessee. So I have some very rural areas such as Van Buren, Sequatchie, Cannon, Coffee.
Which are more conservative.
Which are very, yes. And which is really why I do what I do, because I love educating them. Like, when the brain science of addiction, like, for me, when I, started learning about, and it's also spiritual, right? Because Paul says it, why do I continue to do what I don't want to do when what I want to do is this, but I keep doing this? Like, that's addiction. And, I remember days where I would wake up like, I'm not going to drink today. But by noon, I was planning my route to the liquor store after work, right? And so why would I black out drunk and then just, like, cry out to God, why did I do this again? Only to get up and do it again the next day, But it's... So with a faith-based initiative, a lot of questions are asked of me. Like, I was a PK, preacher's kid growing up, right? And so everybody's like, oh, you were one of those, like one of the wild ones. Absolutely I was, but I was fun, I think I was. I was funny too, I still am. But like, my dad is a funny person and all the dad jokes and stuff. But I'll tell you, like, this, and I might be, just kind of all over the place in what I'm saying, but I went through the DUI Court Program in 2011.
Okay.
And I have a history of toxic relationships, right? And with men, like, men were always kind of like my demise, right? Because I always had a huge desire to be a wife and a mom.
And to be chosen.
And I always wanted, I was the bridesmaid, always, but never the bride. So in 2011, I came to learn about Celebrate Recovery. And I really, like, that was really the community that I latched onto, because it was my faith also.
Mm-hmm.
And, but it was also a time where I met a man.
At
CR.
Yeah.
But then
good choice.
Always that daggum 13th step that they tell you not to do gets me every time, because don't get into a relationship until after 1 year. Okay, well, I did that.
Me too.
And but I met this man at church. He's from God, right?
You sent him right to me.
Honey, wrong. But I've always attracted, and my therapist is teaching me why. Teaching me why I choose the same kind of individuals, which I'm learning not to anymore. But it's that puzzle piece, right? Because I'm a fixer, so I choose broken people, because I'm a healer.
Well, they need me,
and and I can make them better.
Who else would do this?
And so, like, also, like, I've always taken care of people.
Everybody else would have left.
And,
I'll never abandon you.
You're saying all the things my ex-husband said to me initially, right? Like, I'm the best thing that's ever come into your life, right?
Oh, that's good. The medically assisted treatment thing.
Oh, back to this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Personally, I've been very conservative in my recovery. Like,
totally abstinent space.
Totally abstinent space. And over time, that has probably moved a little bit.
Yeah.
And then like other forms of recovery and like watching, my job and my recovery, I'm naturally very open-minded. But when you go through an experience where nothing else has worked and then this one thing works, then you're like, well, everybody needs that. But over time, 12 years, I've really, opened up more. But as a leader of a recovery community that is inclusive of a community,
Mm-hmm.
the medically assisted treatment thing, like I won't budge. I'll shut it down.
So
because it's a community environment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, one of my best friends is on medically assisted treatment. It's going well. I think it's good for him. Do I think it's good for his life? Yes. Do I think that he's tried other forms and it hasn't worked? Yeah. Am I supportive and promote that idea? Yes. Do I support, if there's 6 guys in a house, do I support one of them being on a substance that could be abused by other people in the house? No.
Right.
Yeah. So like at my job, like we accept medically assisted treatment, but only if they can't abuse it.
Well, and I think that there's a point that
so they have to take the shot or
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or they can take naltrexone or they can take other forms. But I was also a heroin addict and watched methadone was going to save us all. So there's a little bit of bias of just, okay, this is a new thing. And that was probably the initial bias. But over time, I've watched people become successful through it.
Mm-hmm.
But just in the community itself, like living in a house with somebody that's their first day script of Suboxone, they are high.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody's going, well, I want to get high.
And you have a unique role in the community in terms of like I do work with more inpatient treatment type individuals.
Yeah, that's different.
But it's also a sober living type situation as well.
Yeah.
So if guys come in and require that, it's very short term.
I've sat in a treatment center where somebody was on Subutex.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody in the room was thinking, I want to be on Subutex.
Yeah.
Because we were like, there was humor in what was going on with this person. Like we didn't understand, why is he high and falling asleep and falling out of the chair in group?
Right.
But
you're like, oh, he brought something in his bag.
I know he was on Subutex.
He's on something.
Yeah, but like nobody in the room, I didn't feel like, oh, I want to be on that. But I think in a group environment where everybody's going to work,
well, yeah,
everybody is like living their own life, but also interjoined. Like if I were to see somebody, I lived in a home and I know that he has drugs that will get me high today, maybe not in 2 weeks, but I'm going to
you're going to start planning that out.
Yeah, I'm going to start.
In your head.
Early on, like 2018, 19, we've tried it like 5 times. And every time, everybody in the house gets high.
Oh, okay. So look, you've already done your
one of the guys
was
he was a son of a doctor, and he was getting his script from somebody else, and then his dad was getting him, and then he was going multiple places and selling it in the house.
Okay, so that is addict behavior.
For sure.
And we talked about this. Like there are people in the room who are sober, but they're not in recovery. Like when you're in recovery, you have to unlearn a lot of those behaviors as well.
Yes. I don't think they're at a space. Everybody at sober living isn't at that space.
Exactly.
Yeah. There are people that are unsafe in like recovery levels, like they're vulnerable.
Exactly.
Yeah. Some of them can't. And like, it helps me with like empathy, but it also like, I'm the safety, But like, if a guy comes in and he's been here 2 weeks and he got a sponsor and he's got a home group and he got a job, and then he uses, like, I don't judge him and say, oh, you failed. Like, he didn't have the tools to even,
Right.
yeah, like,
He's still learning, right?
he's still learning.
And
yeah.
and I have to look at myself. You have to look at people through the lens of what brought me here.
Yeah.
You know, like I tried a lot
A different stuff.
and failed.
Me too.
And 25 years of back and forth, right? I mean, like I can say between my 3 DUIs, the first one being in 04, the last one being in 2010, right? But I had periods of times where, you know, of course, the resources we have available now were not as prevalent then.
For sure.
And so like the Steve Austin, not Stone Cold, but Steve Austin 180 degree
180,
ministry,
yeah.
you know, I've done that program so many times, but the education that, you know, like that the piece of, you know, I took a piece out of every program that I went through in all of those years. That always, like a piece of something always resonated and stayed with me. So I can't say, you know, yeah, I still ended up drinking again and screwing it up again. But then I remember something that I learned in the year before, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, like it's great individuals such as yourself, like my younger brother, he's in recovery. He went to Journey Pure in 2019 and he's been sober ever since. Like I wish that I could have tried it one time and succeeded. However, he was at a point in his life that, you know, he's been married 20 years. He's got a family. He had 2 daughters and he left at Christmas time that year, right after Thanksgiving. We did intervention on Thanksgiving and then, you know, like he came back and again, like our foundation is God and the word. It's how we were raised. So it's always been here. It had yet to go here for me. And, you know, alcohol is so very tricky because it's so accepted in our culture, right?
Yeah.
And when he went to treatment and again, like his entire lifestyle had to change. And it kind of grieved me in a way to watch him because, you know, we're huge Tennessee fans, right? That's our life. Our blood runs orange and that but like that tailgate piece, like he and my older brother have like this orange trailer that they turn into like flat screens and bar, you know, like but he had to totally turn away from that. And I mean, he's great now, right? You know, like our family as a whole has over the years gone through a whole lot together, like between the hierarchy of my older brother, me in the middle, my younger brother, and a lot with, you know, like the family dynamic is very interesting. But I've always been close to my siblings. Whether it's my older brother buying the alcohol for me on my senior trip to now, like, you know, the totally abstaining from that lifestyle, but yet knowing, like now my 8-year-old goes to his house and if he sees it, he's like, hey, you know, I think you need to pour your drink out, your beer out of your refrigerator. But it's like my children are not hidden from addiction and recovery.
Yeah, mine.
They are there with me in the thick, and like I am honest with them about all of it. Like they know their dad is alcoholic. They know. Also, I try to teach them that people can drink and be okay. We just know that in our heritage, in our generation, between your mama and your daddy, please don't ever allow it in your system because you're not going to know whether or not you have the allergy. But also, you know, serve God ultimately. You know, serve God, love people, but know like he's not pleased with a drunk. And while, you know, your friends might seem like they're having a good time, I didn't know at 14 when I was having a good keg party with my friends in a field somewhere where my mama thinks I'm spending the night over at Robbie's house, but we're out here just kicking it, that I would have a 25-year struggle of mental health and substance use. And I say substance use, I mean, it was really alcohol for me. I did dabble in a few things, but like we talked about
I think
before.
it's all classified as SUD now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but my actual diagnosis was bipolar disorder with psychotic features and alcohol use disorder. But now that was lower, let's see. I graduated from MTSU in 2002. My kids are like, you were born in the 1900s. I'm like, yes, I'm ancient. But 2002. So I graduated when I was about 22. Took me about 5 years. And I think right around that time, 2021 was when I received my bipolar diagnosis. And I'll be 47 next month. So
What year did you get sober?
2013 was
Okay.
when I went to long-term treatment. But now that's where I met the man I would marry, right? That 13th step, I did it again. But but that was the avenue by which the Lord gave me my children, you know. And while some experiences can seem extremely, you know, like from God, you know, like again, like I can't go back and say I regret that, because that's how I got Roxy and Jude.
Yeah, I don't have many regrets.
Yeah. And it helped me to be the person that I am today, you know. But I've been single for 6 years, raising children. So while, you know, I was in a very vulnerable state when I met him, and he told me all the right things.
Yeah, we do that.
Like when, you know, like when we have kids, you're going to be able to stay home. You're going to
Just
be
take
able to
care of
raise them. I will take care of you because my parents are millionaires, and you're going to have all, yeah.
He's good.
I told my ex-wife when we met that I had a trust fund.
Oh, so you were a storyteller also?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you still? Okay.
It was in a joking manner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but did
might
she
have
know
believed-
that you were joking?
It was like iffy. She does talk about, you told me you had a,
Yeah, but I was lying to you the whole time.
yeah, men will say, hold on. Yeah, men will say, had y'all had sex? When he was saying all this.
No.
Yeah, they'll say anything. Anything.
Okay. Well, you know.
You can't trust them.
No, you
You
can't.
should put 1,000 milligrams of testosterone in your body and see how you feel.
Well, like, it's funny, like hindsight's 2020, right? Like so much that I have learned about myself and men all within, you know, now that I'm healing.
Yeah.
Because that's the stage my therapist says I'm still in, right? You know, like what's the ultimate goal? I think that we'll be healing until we die, right? Yeah. But there's a period in therapy where, you know, you come in and you're either, non-functioning, right? But then you're healing, which is kind of where I am, and then you're growing. So like the goal is to go from healing to growth, but when most people reach that growth stage, they leave therapy. So right now I'm still healing, and I've really just acquired this therapy within the last year, knowing that, you know, I was going through menopause and I was having a lot of ups and downs in depression. And like, is this menopause? Is this bipolar? Is this not normal? Like, but I just know, like, I take care of my kids. I make sure my parents are good. I'm in this like sandwich generation where I'm taking care of everybody. I'm also taking care of my community, giving back. But it came to a point to where like I've got to start taking care of myself. And therapy has been a great tool for me. Because it's also somebody like I can sit and talk to like you and I can sit and talk to you all day long.
Yeah, me too.
But like a therapist is gonna be kind of like a mediator in terms where at the same time they're gonna provide me some tools like of showing me how can I do better. Like, and that was one thing too. I started kind of talking to a guy in November. And here we go, in my own, like believing negative things about myself in that, like he and I started talking like, and to me, like a new relationship, you should let the woman know, like pursuit, right? And like you go into like this 2 or 3 week of like strong pursuit. And then you kind of like back off.
Cut it off.
And it's like, what did I do? Because I didn't change anything. Okay. And I'm still not, like now I'm really into wanting to please God. So I'm not sleeping with him. It's like, and so then my mind starts playing with me. And then I start thinking, I've got to go get some help because.
Well, two things. Men usually have this thing where they listen to what a woman's saying but they're not actually understanding what she's like the actions. A lot of times women will like say things, but they don't mean those things. And men misjudge that, like, what are your actions? So that's one thing. That's kind of hard. You could expound more on that. I could. And then some people are just avoidant. Like they go all in and then they realize like it's about to get deep and then they run.
Well, we can talk about relationships too. Like everything is fully known up front. If a guy is wanting to pursue me, first of all, I have 2 children, 11 and 8. They're fully relying on me.
Yeah. Okay.
And I do carry 2 jobs and a lot of hats in the community. I do a lot of ministry. And so, you're going to have to come along and be a partner with me that can help me to carry this and not be a burden, because our home is, while it may be wild and chaotic because I am fully in menopause, my daughter is fully in her change in her cycle, and I have an 8-year-old boy, like it's a freaking zoo most days. However, that's our place.
Yeah.
It's our safe place. And I don't just bring men to the house. Also, like any man that comes around, my son is like, oh, that's going to be my daddy. And, and it's just like, no, honey, So I have to be very wise in who I'm even allowing into my space. I mean, because they're over my shoulder all the time too. Like, who are you talking to? Who's that? Oh, is he single? Oh, mama, like, can that be da da da? Like, because they desire that. And since I left my ex-husband, right, my son was 2.
Yeah.
He's 8 now.
6 years.
His age of reasoning, like his understanding of a man and a wife. I mean, really, he doesn't remember his daddy being there, but he can see my mom and dad, which of course, that's Papa Mimi. So like, when he was 2, really wanting a daddy, I would be like, pray for one. But it would be like Santa Claus, right? He would pray for one, get up and look out the door like Santa was going to or God was just going to deliver it to the front door. Oh, I think I hear his truck outside, mama, but then he would, as he grew older, he would say, well, when I get married, my wife will live down the hall from our room, because he only knows like me and him, right? And his sister, and And not like nobody, that's not really the way it works. Like when you get married, you and your wife will have room. Now, you could have a big suite for me. Like if you want to take care of me, because by the time you're that age, you know, I will be in my 70s, I'm sure. But really, you know, like I have to let a man know up front.
I grew up with a single mom. Like,
Oh, you did?
yeah, my parents were divorced.
You know, my EMDR therapist, she's asking me like, well, what happened with did you ever see your parents together? Well, I was 7. So like, I never really, my dad worked a lot and I never really seen them prior. Like, well, did you see your parents loving each other? No, not really. I mean, to me, in my mind, they got in one argument and there was a divorce. The argument wasn't that bad. And I remember afterwards, but when I lived with my mom, I'm grateful for those years.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wish that I didn't I wouldn't say it's a regret. Like when I was 12, my parents were in a custody battle. My dad was trying to get me for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of like stuff that was toxic going on with that. But I went back to my father's because I thought that I was 12 and I needed to be around a father figure.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good time to grow to be a man. It was a logical decision. Looking back, I should have stayed with my mom because I had a more secure, healthy relationship with my mom. And it also taught me how to, like, depending on your mom, like, it taught me how to have adult conversations, mature and healthy intimacy, like where my dad lacked in that area.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it also taught me how to engage with women.
Right.
Yeah. Like,
Well, and I say that all the time. Like, my son is going to be the best husband.
yes.
He's
trained
going
from birth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got 2 women in the house. He's got his grown mama and his sister that thinks that she's the mama.
Boss. Yeah.
And bless his little soul. I mean, he really is. He's Pop's boy, right? My dad. And he is like an 80-year-old man trapped in this 8-year-old body.
That's me.
He gets up and, like, if he goes and stays with my parents, and if I have to get up and work or whatever, if he stays there, he gets up and has coffee. He helps my dad at the pool. You know, like, what can I do to serve you? You know, and that's how my dad is with my mom. You know, like, while they're both, you know, caring for one another and their own physical ailments that they have, it's very much like my dad gets up and fixes the coffee and does the breakfast. And so, like, morning time at my house is very chaotic.
Maybe that's okay. Maybe,
It is okay.
Yeah, maybe that's
like
fine.
I believe it's okay. However it works. But
what's the likelihood of, if you found a husband, that it would go, that it wouldn't go bad and he wouldn't see, that he would see something toxic, unhealthy, or bad? Like, the likelihood is probably pretty high.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be engaged in an intimate relationship, and it's probably going to go bad sometimes. Like, they're bad. I mean, they're good and bad, you know?
Right.
Versus seeing your dad with
Yeah,
your
no,
mom.
I think, again, like, my kids right now are better off
Yes.
without that.
I agree. Right. From the outside, I agree.
Yeah. And I will do anything that I can to prevent that, right? You know, like, while, they're going to see conflict. I mean, there's conflict between my parents. There's conflict between me and my parents. There's conflict between them. Like, there's conflict all the time. It's not that it's just, you know, but having really just the steady knowledge of actually what a father is.
Well, a father and a husband are 2 different things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And why I say I let men know up front too, like, it's me and the kids. Like, we're a package deal. My kids don't need a stepdad. They need a father. So if you're not able to come in here and actually be a father to my children, then just to keep walking.
Keep it moving.
You know, and at our age, most men are not willing to do that. And that's okay. That's why I say, like, my lot is very small.
Well, they probably have already had children.
They've either already had children,
And if they
raised
haven't,
kids,
then
and if they haven't, then I'm sorry, I can't give you that either. Of your own, like you can. Here's two that they're halfway there. You know, they're cute. They're talented. He's about to play football, his first tackle league, and she cheers and she sings, and you know, like I have great children. I can say I'm very blessed in that they're smart. They're not troublemakers. They love people. And you know, that there is that attachment that I can see. Like, so my son will say, you know, like he went from like wanting a daddy to every now and then he'll say he wants his daddy. And I'll just have to say, okay, so your daddy is not a healthy person, or he wasn't when he left the home 6 years ago. Like he since went and got remarried and made another woman believe his lie until she married him, and now he has a life with her. And I tell him, like, listen, buddy, you could have that one daddy here that's not a really nice man. He didn't make choices that were wise in terms of being a father. He would drive around drunk with you in the car. Like he would fight with mama. While you were only 2 and you don't remember, you know, like you could have this one man. Or you could have these 20 very solid, godly men that you have, like Pop, like Jamie, like Jack, like Bubba at church, like, you know, all of these men that are in the community in which you were raised. You could have that one, or you could have 20. And that just really, you know, but again, like the process of sanctification and my knowledge of our Heavenly Father has grown so much over the last 6 years in teaching my children. You know, like your daddy might love you in the best way that he can, right? But what does God say? We love God and we love others. I can't judge your daddy's heart as to whether he loves God first. You have to love yourself. Like there's a healthy loving yourself also, but he loves himself more than he loves other people. And that's not God's design. And so, you know, while, you know, and that I believe might help them to see, like, it's not you. You're not the reason why. You know, like I don't want them to ever have the thought in their head that they were ever a reason why their daddy left. Like, no, it was fully him. And I had a lot to do with it also. I mean, like, I did not want you to be raised in a toxic environment. But also, like, there was a strong boundary in my marriage. And because of my belief in myself and that, you know, like, if there's another woman, if I ever learn of it, I'm done. I can't come back from that. And, you know, while there was a lot of alcohol involved, there was a lot of evidence of women. I mean, he was just as much a porn addict as he was an alcoholic. And I think that they kind of fueled one another, right? But when I started finding the photos on the phone of like himself, right? You're not taking photos for you. Who are you sending those to? You're not sending them to me. Like you're just having a good time at work, taking photos of your penis, right? You know, like how fun is that? But then, you know, like when the actual woman became known, 2 days later, I was gone. Because like we can tell a man that wants to have a relationship with a godly woman all day long. I'm a praying woman of faith. And I pray that anything that you do in the dark comes to light. And you might think that you're going to get away with something. But you're not going to.
You are not.
And I guess he thought he was going to get away with it.
I've learned throughout my life that one of my mentors, her name's Christy. She lives in Florida now, but she always talks about everything that's done in the dark will come to light.
Everything.
And throughout my life, I've realized my life independently, it's always going to come to light.
Same.
Yeah. I have no little dark cranny. Like, it's not possible for me.
Well, me either, because I mean, as people in recovery, we have to walk open, honest, and transparent.
Yes.
All of those hidden things are going to come out.
They're coming.
And if they're not, that, you know, they're going to. And so it's not about, you know, walking around and acting like we're perfect, right?
Yeah.
No, I know that I'm not. There's a lot of things that I continually work on myself, but I don't have dirty little secrets either.
No. One of the things that it's kind of weird, but during the last year, I've been for 10 years, 11 years, like in my community, in my family, mostly in my community, I've really done an incredible job of staying out of the way. And like, I understand that like a lot of my position in life and my status in life has a lot to do with just don't get involved in anything stupid. Like, as long as I can withstand my temptation or just being like, I don't have to be great all the time. I just, for 10 or 11 years, I was just like, just don't do anything stupid. Like, and I had done a really good job of that. And then one day I was reported on by another party, like stuff that wasn't true. I mean, I've done other stuff. Just say that stuff. But when I was reported on falsely, yes, it pissed me off. Yes, I want to respond. But like, also my character is on the line of like, I'm not going to respond. But there was a multitude of reasons why not to respond. But it also kind of freed me because no matter what my actions were, I was still like presumed as a bad character. So it was like all the 11 years was for nothing. So it kind of freed me in the sense that like I'm gonna as long as I didn't get into a space where like I'm gonna be the bad guy anyways. So I might as well. Yeah. Which I didn't do that. But like,
well, you know, my mom always told me, my dad too, like, the best thing that you're going to always have that you don't ever want to ruin in your life is your witness.
Correct.
And, you know, I had to learn that early on in my marriage with dealing with, you know, ex-spouses and stuff. Like they can say all they want to about you.
Yes.
You know, like, of course you're the bad person. Correct. Now. But I say this all the time. If somebody's got a problem with me, it's usually their problem.
I thought I was in a twilight zone for about 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what happened is about 3 months in, it kind of shifted and people started like seeing the other side. Like my interpersonal friends, interpersonal relationships were very reassuring to me.
And that could have been a period of growth that God was putting you through also.
Yeah, like, because I think that there was a little bit of like ego behind that 11 years where I was like trying to uphold myself.
Yeah.
In like perfect character.
Yeah.
Where now there's a lot more humanity in me.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Where I can be like, no, like
I had to learn that.
I'm messing up.
Yeah.
And like, it's okay. I'm human, you know?
I mean, I carried that. I call it a perfectionism spirit.
Yes, correct.
I carried that for a long time, and really in that surrender of not you know, like, it is what it is.
It's gonna be what it's gonna be.
And my boss says that all the time. Like, I used to get worked up about these presentations that I would have to go do in front of these large congregations, and I'm a female, and you know, it's like, you know what, Jolie? Like, you don't have to perform in the space. What brought you to this space is what got you here. And that freed me so much that like I don't have to prove myself. And I also don't have to be perfect, because I also found in like being vulnerable and transparent about my struggles, it helps other people to be themselves also.
It does, yes.
And that's really, like walking around and pretending is what I did for a really long time.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in church. And that's what a lot of the passion behind like that stigma breaking that I desire to do in the space that I'm allowed to have right now as the faith-based coordinator is like my parents pastored a church in rural Tennessee for 10 solid years that had no idea that they had children that were alcoholics. Right?
Yeah.
And why is that? Because that perfectionism, and that might be a hard thing for like them to hear it come out and said that way. But, my parents did the best that they could do with what they had and what they were given, right?
You also have to think like we're the first generation. I was going to ask you about this earlier, why you thought, but we're the first generation that it was very uncommon, the generation prior to us, that there was as many people with as many ailment, drink, alcohol, mental health.
Well, the generation before us never talked about it.
There was a silent generation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I would say that it also didn't happen as much either.
Mm-hmm.
Like one family might have a drunk, like versus now, like I don't. Maybe it's access. Maybe it's like in 2008, 2007, 2008, like heroin hit the eastern seaboard and a bunch of suburban kids started doing heroin. So the access increased versus, and now like maybe the access wasn't as high then.
Well, and I think it's our culture too.
Sure, yeah.
And parenting. Because I kind of go back to old school, right? Like we were allowed so much freedom as children to roam outside.
Yes.
We also didn't have these little devices.
Which is access to the world.
Which is access to a lot of things that are very unclean. But I don't fear-based parent either. Like, my kids are allowed to be children, and do the fun kid things. But I am very much involved in if there is a screen in front of them, like I know exactly what they're looking at and watching. Now, does my daughter go into her room with her laptop and watch some, yes, but also I've raised her in a way to know, and she's very spiritual and very much a God little girl.
That's good.
And she's not, so I trust her. Whereas my little boy, TV is out in the living room.
Yeah, it's opposite for me. My son's allowed to have all devices at all times. And, there's some things that I've been like, yeah, we're not going to watch that, But my daughter, she can't be near. Yeah. She just, what it is for her is like, it's a little bit different than, okay, I'm going to see something that's not ethical. It's more along the lines of, it's a separate world for her.
Yeah. Fantasy kind of.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And she will dive into it, and she will also communicate with friends in a way that is not her. And it's not healthy. It's very weird. It's a very weird communication. I mean, the stuff I've read, I was just like, what is going on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like
who even is this kid?
Yes. Who is this person? Yeah. I mean, just weird behavior. Like, just, that's not the person that was in my room a minute ago,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Being a parent is like,
It's wild.
It's something I never wanted to do. It was not on my to-do list, but somehow it's became like the most important part, integral part of my life, and like what my witness or ministry is to my life.
Yep.
Yeah, like how are my kids going to be?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to know how you like started recovery and like how you like gave your life to God. Like, was that in CR or like or what happened?
Life.
Life.
Well, I will say it was very much a process.
Yeah. It wasn't like a experience. It was more of a.
So, okay. I have to think about how to like word it and like where to begin because
Okay.
yes, my faith and has been there my whole life, right? Like Jesus is always the answer, right? And I was raised in the church and baptized at 11, but then the addiction, the drinking started at 14, and then the mental health issues, the toxic relationships, life, and then the DUIs. And, after my first DUI, again, I would have periods of sobriety. And then there was a time, again, like, I was always a big girl. So in 2010, I had gastric sleeve where I lost 115 pounds, and I was told not to drink. Sorry, I was at a period of recovery at that point where I had been sober for about a year and a half, and now I'm going to have this surgery, and like I thought, being skinny would solve all the problems in my life, right?
Okay.
And so I lost 115 pounds, but in the period of losing that, I started to go back out, right? Because I started feeling good about myself because I was 275 pounds when I went in to have my surgery. I got down to probably like 160, I'd say, like what, I don't know. But going back out and having that attention, right? But then I started drinking alcohol again. And that was what would lead me to my third DUI, which was in so the law changed from 2010 to 2011. December 31st, 2010, I got my third DUI. The law would change the very next day for the habitual offender. So thankfully, we'll call it God, whatever, I didn't get charged as a habitual offender, but I did. So my first DUI was reckless. My second was DUI 1. This DUI was DUI 1, but I was, went into the DUI Court program. So, so that's where I would be introduced to Celebrate Recovery in 2011.
Okay.
That's where I would start to build the community, right? Opposite of addictions, connection, and community. But I also met a guy there. And so I was sober during that period after DUI court. I graduated, never, didn't drink, didn't have anything. Got into the relationship, was in that relationship for about a year, and he started using. Like, he was a heroin addict, but started using like opioids, snorting Roxys, things like that. And then I kind of got in the mindset of, okay, well, if he's going to use it, I'm going to drink. And so I started drinking like wine.
Okay.
And
Like
and
at home?
so
Like at
kind of, at home. And at this time I was back. So I was in and out of my parents' house. From the time I was 17, I moved out, right? And then, so I would move back in with my parents, or then I'd move back out with friends. I did that probably 5 or 6 times. And then, so at this time, I was still living with my parents. I had just finished DUI Court Program. I was involved in a relationship, which, again, my parents are people of faith, so you don't live with anybody unless you're married to them. And so he didn't like he did stay with me a lot at my parents' house, but the way that our house is set up, it wasn't really like my boyfriend was sleeping over, right? Like, like there was a room there, I was here, all the things. And so in 2013 was when I started drinking again regularly. But these periods of drunkenness were shortened, and I was living with my parents, and of course, they've always, since my bipolar diagnosis, like, you cannot drink alcohol, right? And so the end of 2013, when actually it was the beginning of 2013, I was in this relationship. Well, then that relationship ended, and I went off the deep end in drinking, and ended up back at Trust Point. And so I was really kind of given an ultimatum by my family, because my brothers had children, and my older brother's wife was pregnant with their second. And the children have always been the most important thing to me. My family too, but the children is really what I will say. The children in my life has saved my life, whether it be my niece's nephew or my own.
Okay.
And so it was, you have to go away, or you're not going to have a relationship with your family, and you're not going to be allowed to see your nieces and my nephew on the way. So I was not allowed to leave Trust Point. My parents picked me up, and drove me straight to New Orleans, which was a treatment program called Bethel Colony Women at the Well. And Bethel Colony in New Orleans is really kind of like a community in its own. Bethel men and Bethel women. And it's right, I say this a lot, like I had to go to New Orleans to get sober. But really, that was the time. It was very scary for me. I had never left Murfreesboro. I never left my parents for anything, longer than a week or two. But it was a 9-month program. And I was able to work it with my job to where I ended up being able to take short-term disability, didn't lose my job. And really just, go. But this was a period of time where, I have talked about the time where my kids were taken from me. And this was a period of like all of the labels were stripped. Well, this was another time where like I didn't have to work. I was there to work on myself. But they have the women's side, the men's side. And the longer, it's like a working program, right? So you go in and you have like 3 days of a period that you're kind of off, where you're learning the scriptures, like it's faith-based, and you start at 5 a.m. and usually sometimes go programming through 8 or 9 o'clock at night. It's also right across from the New Orleans Seminary. So there were one night a week where we would go over there and actually get seminary classes. But I saw a lot of world that I never would have seen here, like individuals coming off the street, like this homelessness, and the individuals coming off the street and coming off of heroin. Because like to me, heroin was scary. Meth was scary. I never used those because I was scared of it because I saw what it did to people.
Yeah.
But now this was a period where God really met me there. I missed home. Like the time that I was okay before going to New Orleans, like after DUI court, when I was sober in that year or two, that was almost 2 years. I was going to church regularly with my parents. I was living with my parents. And so like when I was extremely homesick when I was gone. Also, my nephew was born when I was in New Orleans. And and I missed a lot, but someone made a comment to me and was like, what is 9 months out of your life compared to the rest of your life? And at that time, I was 34 years old. You know, I still desired very much to be a mom, a wife, to have a family, but I felt like my time was ticking away, right? And so anyway, like, God met me there, but also so did my husband.
Okay.
And they would tell me, like, your Boaz is not over there, right? Well, you know, his name was Bo. Okay, funny, haha. Now, like, I can laugh about it. But yeah, and we talked about, like, you know, he said all the right things. He knew what I wanted. He knew my desires. So he told me everything that I wanted to hear. And he had finished the program, but he stayed until I finished the program. But we ended up getting caught by because the working program is like you start to go to work with, like, the colony runs itself. So you either have a job of like doing the laundry or cleaning, you know, or going with the minister and doing whatever she needs you to do for the day. But I worked my way up to the office manager. So I had a cell phone. And he was on the guy's side and he was the handyman, right? So he was always coming over to the women's. And he also drove the bus. So the church bus picked us up on Sunday mornings and we all went to church together. So there was very few times that we were intermingled with the men, but it was church on Sunday, seminary on Thursday, and then, but he was in and out of the women's place all the time because, well, and every woman there was so attracted to him. Like, he was a good looking man. And, you know, not to say anything about myself, but you go to a women's program in New Orleans, like, I was one of the better looking women there, right? You know? So that really began my recovery of, now I can't say, like, people will say, well, what's your sober date? I came back, so we got back from New Orleans and got married right away because I can't live with somebody that I'm not married to, right? And then probably 2 weeks after that, he was drinking. And so there was a lot of chaos there early on in our marriage. And so I would drink too. And so, you know, I say I've been in long-term recovery since 2013. That's when I went there and did the things, but I didn't take my very last drink till probably 6 years ago.
Okay.
And I think that we had kind of talked about, you know, alcoholism, alcohol, how it's, you know, accepted in our culture. So, you know, I would have, and really, when I got pregnant with my daughter, Roxy, so we got married in 2013. She was born in 2015.
Okay.
So for the first 3 years of our marriage, after this first period of chaos, right, it got to a point to where we had gone over, he's from Dyersburg, and we had gone over to his family. And he would drink up every bit of money that we had. Like, the first year that we were married, we grossed $125,000, but didn't have anything to show for. But he got drunk on our way back and we got into it, and we were at this gas station and he kind of like pushed me out of the car, and I made him go in to get something for me, and I left him there. And I came back. It was probably still about 2 hours from here.
Mm-hmm. And
I got up the next day and went to work, and I called my parents, and I was like, Bo and I got into it, and I left him at a gas station last night. And so I think that was the period where he knew I was not going to, like, deal with, you're not going to put your hands on me. You're not going to fight me. Like, and so he and I really straightened up at that time together. Okay. And started, going to church and really having the mentorships of men in his life that he needed because he had no father figure really. He didn't have a steady man in his life until he was in his 20s. And hindsight's 2020. I can go back now and really like see the dynamic of why he's the way that he is, how he became to be the way that he is, which doesn't excuse the behavior, right? And so really when the Lord blessed me with child, right? Like I did a lot of things up until that point. I'd had abortion. I'd had ectopic pregnancies. Like really sitting in a room of women in New Orleans and saying these terrible things that I had done out loud for the first time was a freeing experience for me. Because a woman of faith who's had an abortion is very, like for me to say that out loud, even here on camera, is still kind of scary, right? But when I was sitting in a room and I said that for the first time, the enemy lies to you and he tells you you're the only one. Shame on you. But 8 out of the 13 women in there had done the same thing. And that was a very freeing thing for me. So the rooms really, when I became into the Celebrate Recovery community, right? And then going to treatment and really like the community of the small group is what has carried me through where I am now. So I had Roxy and when I went in to deliver her, she was a C-section. But I have a scar from my ectopic pregnancy where I had gotten pregnant and it was ectopic, which means that, the baby doesn't make it all the way to the uterus. It's in the fallopian tube. Well, it can't grow there. And when they learned that it was ectopic, they admitted me into the hospital to terminate the pregnancy. And it was a traumatic experience because I learned that I was pregnant. Very shameful, right? I wasn't married. Had a boyfriend who I had met that was in a treatment program at a church I was going to. You see a pattern here.
Yeah.
But my dad was with me in the ER when I found out that I was pregnant because I was having pain. And then, oh, you're pregnant, so this is why you have this pain. And my dad, was the one I was so fearful of learning this, but he sat there and he said, it's okay. Children are a gift from God. We'll get through this. But then, a couple of weeks later when the pain really grew more intense and they learned that it was ectopic and that I had to go in and have it terminated, I was admitted and they gave me a shot and then they sent me home the next day. But they never tested me after that. And so, here I am thinking that I'd had this shot to terminate pregnancy and that I'm just going to have, a normal period after that. But of course I was bleeding anyway because it was just an ectopic, terrible pregnancy. And so about 2 weeks after that, I was at a church service, at a black church and we were up worshiping like around holding hands and I got this extreme pain in my side. And I have a really strong threshold for pain. Like I can withstand a lot. But it became so intense that I passed out. And the women of the church, I woke up like in the bathroom, like they thought the spirit took me out. Right.
Okay.
But I went back to my parents' house and ended up in the ER and come to learn like whatever the shot was to terminate didn't terminate. And I was bleeding internally. And so I had to have an emergency tubal ligation where they had to remove that part of my fallopian tube. So I was kind of told during that period of time that it was going to be difficult for me to ever have children. So when I went in to have Roxy, in 2015, they saw that scar because they had to cut me open like a C-section. And they were like, well, you don't have children. And I said, no, but I've had, a tubal ligation, ectopic pregnancy. Like, oh, so you had in vitro to get pregnant? And I said, no, I prayed for her. And so that was, Roxy saved my life then, right? And so for the first 3 years of her life, we had a seemingly normal existence. Now, when I say like he was a narcissist and treated me some sort of way, I'm speaking from a hindsight perspective because, Roxy was born. So for 3 years, he worked the second shift. For the first 3 years of our marriage, he worked the second shift. And so I say that a lot. Like when he got a first shift job and we actually had to see each other, like that's when things kind of got rocky. But when Roxy was a baby, I worked the early shift. So he worked the late shift. So she was always either with him while I was at work or with my parents until I got off, and then with me at night because he, so that was like 3 years of semi-normal marriage with a baby. When I got pregnant with my son, it was a shock. Like, oh, you're like, to my husband, to me, like to him, it was like, oh, like how'd that happen? I'm like, I'm pretty sure you know how that happens, right? He was like, I know how it happened, but how it happened because you're supposedly not supposed to be able to have kids very easily. At this time I'm 39. Well, I was 30. I had Jude when I was 39. My ex-husband was, 42. And I have a stepdaughter. She was 14 when we got married. So at this time, she had already had a son also. And so, so I named him Jude. And I love the name Jude because, Jude in the Bible, really talks about like the end times or whatever. But I just love the name Jude anyway. And I wanted him to have a biblical name. So like when I say my kids are miracles, like I believe all kids are miracles, but they're extremely miraculous. And so, but when my ex-husband learned that we were having a son and him and his daddy issues that he had, he rejected him from the womb. I don't want him. And I would have, like, I spoke about Steve Austin. Steve's always kind of been my go-to. Like, I've been knowing him for almost 30 years now, right? So I would call Steve over, like, Bo, he's not even drunk, and he's making these comments about how he doesn't want my son. And so, he'd come and talk, and he would say, like, why are you so against your son? And he would say, I don't want another man in this world like me. And then Steve like made a comment like, God has planned him from the beginning of the earth, right? Like, while you were the avenue that he is using to get him here, he has nothing to do with you. And but when Jude was born, like I mentioned, Roxy and her daddy were very close. And so she was always like in the bed with us, right? And so when Jude came along, I was like, I can't have a baby in the bed and a 3-year-old and a husband. Like, y'all gonna have to go in another room. And so when Jude came along, like I really, like, he's a mama's boy, totally. But I feel like he knew that rejection from the jump because he and his daddy did not have the bond that Roxy and daddy did. But that was also the period of time when he really started drinking more heavily. Also, he was into whatever he was into with women online. Then at the time it was Craigslist ads.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would come home from work and open a laptop to a Craigslist like ad for sex. And while, it was mostly emotional, I think maybe through like there could have been some physical things that I didn't have the evidence of then, right? But really like so when Jude was born, Roxy was born February the 26th of 2015. Jude was born March the 26th of 2018. So they're exactly 3 years and 1 month apart.
Okay.
And Roxy saved my life, but Jude saved my life again, right? Right before because I knew at that time, like alcohol was not a part of my life at all. Like after I had Roxy, alcohol had to be gone from both of our lives. So if he was drinking, it was hidden. But you can't hide alcohol, right? And you also can't hide the bank statements, and because like what you said, like you're either all in or you're not. So he made a trip to his parents' lake house on the weekend to get it ready for the season when Jude was a baby. And Jude was born in March, so this was probably like May, I would say. March, April, May, June, something like that. And I'm sitting there and he was gone, right? And I'm sitting there like I had just given Jude a bottle. I don't know what Roxy was doing, but something hit me like in my spirit. He's drunk. Because I hadn't heard from him in like 3 or 4 hours. Immediately when I had that feeling, I got a text message from my stepdaughter, Hannah. And was like, have you talked to my daddy? I'm like, oh, what's going on? So that was like when like the knowledge of what he was really doing really came to be known. And I chased him that weekend from Friday till he ended up back in Murfreesboro on Sunday. And I told him, I'm like, we have 2 kids. Like, you cannot do this. Me trying to hide it from my parents and my family, like, we have to be okay for our children. They're going to take our children, like all of these things going on. And then, like, he's like, okay, I'll do better, so we started going to church more. And I started doing all of the tools that I knew, having mentors in his life, pastors, my dad, all of the positive things that I thought would help him. And so then we took a trip with like my best friend I was talking about. We've been best friends since high school. When Jude was born, really, she came back into my life. Now, and still is. But we went to the beach. It was Jude's 1-year birthday, and it was us as a family, my best friend, her husband and kids, and another couple. And so we were there, and my best friend was like, why do you allow him to talk to you like that? And to me, like I say, I speak now from a hindsight perspective, but I didn't realize the emotional abuse that he had instilled in me from the beginning, right? And really like a lot of inappropriate talk about his son and like the size of his son's penis, like really inappropriate stuff. And then, like the sexual talk with like thinking that he's talking to the guys there that are, like, and I'm thinking to myself, like, this is really inappropriate. And so really, he took off and was supposed to go get us food while we were on the beach. And what did he do?
I got drunk.
He went and got drunk.
Never came back.
He came back some hours later, and then so really, like, that was kind of a turning point of no return for him. He went to treatment at the end of 2019, which was kind of around Halloween. He ended up at Bethel Colony in North Carolina. See, we met in New Orleans, and then he ended up there, and this was kind of like, this was the last treatment that he would get, and come back right around Christmas time. And my best friend saw him at Walmart and was like, pretty sure Bo's drunk. And I'm like, no, he just got back from treatment, right? But he was. And so in January of 2020, he left his work phone at home one morning. And I got a text message from him on my phone making a comment of like, now, I get hit on a lot at work, right? Because he worked at Nissan in Smyrna. And learning about his behaviors over the years, I'm like, oh, who you done mess with, right? Like, if a woman is hitting on you, that's your fault because you're married. You wear a ring, and like, shut it down. Why are you saying this? Well, then I learned that he had left his work phone there, and that's where he was having this other relationship with this woman. And so that day, I saw, and he had the number programmed into that work phone, something totally different. And I was like, okay, like, you've known, we were married for 7 years, and you've known, like, my line in the sand is another woman. And you didn't just have the pictures on your phone just for fun. Like, I've already known, but now here's the evidence, and here she is. And so I called her, and like, I know how to play the game too, right? And so then even after I called her and she assured me, like, this, when she realized that I was his wife that had gotten his work phone for the day, like, she straightened her act, like, oh, well, I'm, somebody that has come to help him, and like, he loves his wife. And so some hours later, before he got home from work, I started texting from that phone pretending to be him. Then that's when I learned, like, he had slept with her, and I knew that. So it was that night I packed my kids and me up, and we left. And that was January of 2020, the year of COVID, right? And so I thought that he would be better, and he got worse. And then, like, I had the kids a birthday party. So Roxy's birthday, February, March. So I had the kids a birthday party kind of in between that. And he got drunk and showed himself, like, I wouldn't allow him to be there. And at this time, my family's involved also, because now, like, it's known. And so my divorce was filed on my son Jude's second birthday, March 26th of 2020. And then the world shut down. And so, like, the court battle that I had with him, I don't want to say it was a battle, like, our divorce was by default. So he didn't show up. So I got everything. All the things that he said to me, like, you leave me, you'll have nothing. And a lot of what I do now is Christian women of divorce, because divorce is just as stigmatic in the church as drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And I don't want a woman to ever think she's stuck, because even though I had a very successful career for 11 years, when Roxy was 2, I left that job to stay home and raise my kid. You know, like, you can stay home, you can do all of this. But I wasn't financially capable of carrying our family at that time. So we lived with my parents for 6 months, and I can tell you in so many ways that God provided for me and continues to do so 6 years later. You know, I'd never lost the house. Like, I just bought a vehicle on my own without a daddy or a man helping me out, you know. I didn't have a car payment for 6 years, and that was scary for me. You know, but again, I don't live in fear-based anymore. Like,
Every woman I be with or ever be with in my life, like I don't ever want them. I want them to know that they can walk away from me at any time. I want them to be propelled into a situation. Well, there's two things of reasons why, but you know, women don't leave. A man can make $70,000 and a woman can make $70,000. They're a joined family. Let's say, for some reason, the woman thinks I can't do it. The man never thinks. He never thinks I'll never be able to survive if I walk away from it. So it's not really a financial thing. It's a mental thing, right? A man just thinks I'll be okay. I'll sleep on the floor. Like, he doesn't even think I'll never be able to support myself. So I never want a woman to think that. But there is like a ethical reason, like an empowerment reason. There's also like, I want the woman to choose me based on love and not security. Like, I'll offer the security, but women make choices based off security a lot, and they stay in situations that are unhealthy, or not beneficial to their life or their needs because of security and safety and financial reasons. Like, I want you to choose me because
of you,
of me,
right?
Not because of what I provide for you.
Well,
like I want to provide it, but
I'm sure that that's changed in your perspective over the years too, and like getting a woman. Think about what you said to your wife when you first met her, right? You have a trust fund?
No, trust me, yeah.
Like my ex-husband, like, I'm a millionaire. No, you're not. You got nothing.
Well, in my addiction, some of how I survived was using women. So my perception of how I want to be a godly man looks a lot different.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah, like I want to be a good father, good husband. I want to be a godly man.
And now, like the recovery piece that we talk about, right? Like, what matters to me most is what God thinks about me.
Correct.
And, you know, so the reason I don't drink is, well, because I've seen the destruction that it gave to my life when I did. But at the same time, I want to be pleasing to God. And then also, I don't ever want my children to see me in that state of mind. Because, you know, like doing the math, like I said, the last drink that I took, well, it's probably been 7 years now. Time gets by. But there was a period of time that, you know, in my divorce where like my bipolar was not properly medicated. Here comes a little bit of, you know, drinking to compensate, right? And when I first left my husband, I wasn't drinking. But the trauma of that caused me to become extremely manic. So there's another Trust Point stay, right? Like I said, Trust Point has seen me a lot. And now I make jokes about it, like, that little 7-day vacation over at Trust Point wouldn't be too bad.
Be all right now.
You know, I would rather choose somewhere other than Trust Point now, like that. I
can get you an Airbnb.
Yeah,
if you need
yeah. Like there's a Miriam House over there in Normandy. Like they have a brand new home. It's very serene on the, you know, like Trust Point, last resort. But based on a pattern of my behavior of what that started when I was 18, 19, right? Like there was a lot of times where I would abstain from alcohol, but I would have a mental health break. But my parents wouldn't, or my family wouldn't know, like she's just acting erratically. There's something not right. So there was a period of time where my dad had power of attorney over me. So like I'm working on that in therapy right now also because I do feel like my mental health was used against me a lot. And while I say it again, like my parents and my family did the best that they knew what to do, right? My brother, my younger brother especially, and his wife, they've been married almost 20 years actually. And they saw me in my very first episodic, psychotic, manic, and like my brother had to tackle me onto the ground because, like at that time, I guess the devil was chasing me. I don't really know. But when I left my husband, it's always trauma induced that causes my brain to flip whatever the switch is there.
Yeah.
And so I ended up in Trust Point because I didn't have, let's talk about medication. Want to? Because I was on it for a really long time, for like 18 years, but it caused me to develop, tardive dyskinesia. And so when I went to New Orleans, I was deformed in my face. I had no control over my.
It's like Twitch.
Yeah, it's almost like Parkinson's.
Yeah, I know someone that got it recently.
Yeah.
My doctor, she had to shut down her practice because she was going through it or whatever.
It's awful. And when I say, like, when I went to New Orleans, the Lord healed me physically because I tried every neuro doctor here, Vanderbilt, around. I would have injections of Botox in my arm. It would paralyze my arm, so I had to learn how to do stuff with my left hand. My brothers were just having my nieces. I couldn't even like hold them and give them a bottle with it was terrible. And so, you see all of these famous before and afters of people who are in addiction. Like I really have a really good before. Okay. But also like when I got pregnant, I did not want to take medication when I was having my babies. And I had the same psych doctor for 18 years. But when I went to New Orleans, there was a drug that was introduced to me called Cogentin. And it's really what healed me of that tardive dyskinesia. Now, when I first started taking it, was terrible. Like I had the worst side effects, like the headache. I mean, it was bad. But after that subsided, my face went back to normal. My body, like just my nervous system just was healed. So then when I came back after having the same psychiatrist for that amount of time, and then, like I said, I got married as soon as I got back. Then a year later I got pregnant, and I told him, like, I'm not taking medicine. Well, we'll see how you do. And so I didn't require medication all throughout my pregnancy with Roxy. Now, after I had Roxy, she was 4 months old, I believe. I had to have emergency appendectomy where they went into where I had my C-section and cut me open. Trauma, right? It flipped me into a manic state of where I had to go back to Trust Point and I was medicated again. And so then when I got pregnant with Jude, I said, no, I'm not taking medicine when I'm pregnant. Okay, we'll see how you do. So I didn't require medication the whole time I was pregnant. And he was a terrible pregnancy for me. I was 39, right? So I had all of the things that you can think of. Carpal tunnel for like I didn't know was a thing, like pregnancy carpal tunnel. I had to wear arm braces when I slept because I had neuropathy. I'd wake up and my hands would be numb, burning. And then I had the gestational diabetes. I had all the things wrong that you could think of. And then I gained like 50 pounds or more. But I didn't require the medicine. And then even after I had Jude, up until I left my husband, I didn't require medication. So it's another thing I'm talking to my therapist and not just my therapist, but I'm in med management now because I just started a medication again a couple of weeks ago because I was having a struggle with the ups and the downs. And my therapist asked me, like, what do you think about your bipolar diagnosis? And I told her, like, I don't know, because I didn't take that on to my identity because I didn't believe that I was bipolar. Like, I think that's a very easy diagnosis to give people who are struggling with alcoholism. But at the same time, I'm really struggling with my highs and my lows. But I'm also going through menopause, and I do have a very active lifestyle where, I am running and hustling from the time I open my eyes until the time I go to bed at night.
Yeah.
But I just, like my family was having some worries, and my brother was like, I think you might, and just, go see, and so I started a medication called Latuda.
Mm-hmm.
I'm better now, but also there was some trauma going on during that time. And so like my therapist is like, Jolie, you haven't required bipolar medication in 6 years. That's a long time.
It is a long time.
So there's other mental health diagnoses that she wants me to talk to the medical provider about because she thinks that there could be maybe some sort of imbalance there, not necessarily a bipolar type thing.
Okay.
So right now, like I'm still very much in the early stages of exploring that. I started the Latuda. It has helped, but again, like, your daughter taking the ADHD medication, like initially it's going to help in some sort of way.
Yeah.
But do I want to be on a medication? Like what my therapist was saying, like as a woman, like if you're bipolar and you require medication for the rest of your life, but when you get older, you might require another medication and really just talk to your med provider about that. And so that's like one thing about me is like, I'm not against medication, but again, I don't want it if I don't need it.
Yeah.
And so if I need it now for short term to help me get back, yeah. But do I think I need it for life? I don't know. Let me talk to a doctor about it.
Mm-hmm. We're at the end.
Okay.
Okay. I really appreciate you coming on. It's been great to sit with you.
Yeah.
Every guest, I ask the same question. And when you answer the question, you will answer the question back. And you have all the time in the world to answer the question. It's like a thought-provoking question.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll answer it back. The question is, what's your deepest fear? So you'll answer, my deepest fear is, and then answer. And then that's the end of the episode.
I would say that my deepest fear is missing what God really has called me here to do, right? Like, again, when I surrendered everything and began like the total surrender, and the total surrender really came when all of the labels were taken from me. Mom, wife. And so when I say like everything that I feared, aside from losing a child, has already happened. So I don't live fear-based. But I am very much actively raising 2 children. a deep fear would be missing the mark on something that I could do in their life. Like our highest calling is really whatever God has in front of you at the time, right? And my highest calling right now is to be the best mom to my kids as I can be, because I'm their mom and they don't have a dad. And man, like, there's a lot that could go into the answer of this question too, that could lead me down a lot of different roads. I don't want my kids to ever think that they can't talk to me about something. I don't want to say that I couldn't talk to my parents about stuff, but I didn't believe that I could. So I hid things from them. I don't want my kids to think that they have to hide things from me. I think living that open, honest, and transparent life in not pretending to be someone, but really just being who we are, being who we're called to be. It frees me up from a whole lot, because, when I was coming out of my addiction, I remember my mom at the foot of my bed on her knees. Like, the reason why I'm alive today, I believe, is because of the prayers of my mom. But I thought my mom was perfect. And I thought that she couldn't understand me because she never got drunk. She never had to experience the things that I had to go through. She married right out of school and, married the best looking man in town, and, had my dad that's been taking care of her for, 50 something years. And somebody said to me, like, your mom's made mistakes. And I'm like, but I don't know about them, And so I don't ever want my kids to think that I'm perfect. And they know that I'm in recovery. They know what addiction is. They also know what recovery is. Their father is an alcoholic. We have a healthy boundary of, like who I'm allowing in their life and to be an influence in their life. So alcohol is not in our life very much. And if it is, it's very safe. Like, so that the fear would be like, when my kids grow up, them not being able to rely on me, to trust me, to really like shun me in a way. Like, I see grown adults who don't have relationships with their parents. And like, to me, I let my parents down in a whole lot of ways, but they've also been the rock solid foundation to bring me back to the Heavenly Father, who's never left me, and I really just don't ever want to miss anything that God has put in front of me to do. I try to also remember that, I'm not really that powerful. I am, but as long as I'm surrendered to God, yeah, we are powerful beyond measure, right? Like, that's the whole purpose of us being here. But at the same time, surrendering all of that to God and knowing that as long as I live, like there's a verse in Galatians 2:20 of how we have to die to ourselves. And so if I'm dead, how can I do anything wrong? As long as the power of God is living through me and in me, then I have the power to overcome anything. I can do and I can be whoever I want to be. And I teach that to my kids every day. I've had a lot of naysayers in my life, and a lot of people that I've said that I want to do things to that automatically shut it down. And I'm like, I've had to overcome that. And if my son says that he wants to be a pro football player, absolutely. Yes, you can, because it all starts with a dream, right? And we'll go through neighborhoods, where we'll see like big houses, right? Mama, can we have a house like that one day? Yes, we can. Might not be for me. You better start hustling. You better do well in your football.
Yeah.
You better, really, I don't live fear-based, but the biggest fear would be that I'm not all that God has created me to be, that I don't try something new because I don't believe that I can, when actually we can do whatever, we can do all things through Christ who gives us that strength.